Today we're going to remove the air conditioning compressor on a 1996 Chevrolet S10 pickup truck. First thing I'll have to do is remove that belt and then discharge the compressor, although I think he said that it has no Freon in it, but it's got a leak and the compressor went out. But anyways, we've taken all the connections loose, the hoses and the wires and the belt, and it looks a little difficult on some things to get to, but it should be fairly easy. 2 bolts on that compressor on the front and possibly a bracket in the back. I'll look here and see in a second. There's a bracket right here. This is the belt tensioner, and it's got a place to put a 3/8 inch driver in there, and I'll be pulling it upward to release the tension off the belt to get it off. I'm going to try to videotape this, but it's going to be really hard considering it's all cramped in space and stuff. But that is the bracket. And I don't know if you can see the hole in this video or not, but there's a little hole right there, and that's where you put a 3/8 inch drive. Okay, we just disconnected the electric clutch, because that's what this is a clutch. And then we have some sensors back here. I've already unplugged them. I'm not exactly sure what they are. Sometimes they're for heat, and it could be pressure switches. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to look that up. But now we're down to disconnecting the refrigerant lines, and then the 2 bolts, which is probably hard to see, but there's one right there, and then one's right over there. And then there is a metal bracket that comes off right there.
Okay, I have the compressor setting out. That is the high and low pressure switch. I'm not sure which one's which. You can look up by the color. They'll go in here where these plugs are. Those plugs are held in by a snap ring, which you'll have to use a pair of snap ring pliers to squeeze it in and then pull it out. I had to use a needle nose pliers to pull that little plug out. It kind of blew air on me when I blew out, so it's a little under pressure, but no big deal. You just want to make sure that you get the colors matched on those switches when you go to pick them up. I was going to swap these out, but they're too brittle and they'll break, and I can't even get them to turn, so I'll have to replace them. They're about 25 a piece. That's a snap ring pliers, and that's a needle nose. That's what you'll need to do that with. These are the new pressure switches. Like I said, you should just replace them, because if you're putting on a new compressor or a rebuilt compressor, more than likely the high and low pressure switches, one of them's bad or going bad, and to keep everything at the correct readings, you'll want to go ahead and just change these switches out. 25 a piece, a little more expensive, but it's worth it.
Oh, and another thing, on the belt I was wrong. Instead of pulling upward, I had to push downward on the bar. Get some used to. Cars vary, and it kind of confused me while I looking down in there, but you push the bar down, and when I took the belt off, I had to push it back down again to get enough clearance, and there's probably no way to see it with this camera, but get a clearance between the tensioner pulley and the main pulley. It was with it released, it's almost right against it, and you can't get the belt out, so you have to push it back down a bit to work the belt out. I blocked off the ports on these because I don't want moisture getting into the new receiver dryer. Our accumulator tank, I put a new one in there. I mean, didn't really show the wrenching and stuff because it's pretty straightforward. If you're going to get in there, hopefully you know how to use wrenches. So the only thing you want to watch out for here is typical GM's got a bracket that's loose, so I can get a good angle on it. There's a bracket right here that goes back to the motor, and you got to make sure those holes line up to stick it through into the compressor in the back. As soon as I get this together, I'm going to put an evacuation and recharge on it. I changed out the O-rings pretty much in every coupling fitting there has been, and I flushed out. I just blew denatured alcohol through some of the lines and stuff through the evaporator and through the condenser, and just pour some in and blow it out with an air hose. The compressor is installed. I really couldn't videotape much of how it went on. Just pretty much straightforward bolting. There's a Bolt in the back, I think, as I pointed out at the corner where the bracket goes. You got that bolt to take the manifold pipes loose. Got this connector and then 2 connectors right back there, and then 2 bolts right up front. There should be 2 back in the back, but this one was either missing or they didn't use it. And then I did the belt, put the belt on. Your belt routing's usually right there. I had a little vacuum pump and some manifold gauges here. I just hooked this to the vacuum pump and pulled a vacuum on it for about 30 minutes, and it's still holding. Matter of fact, I've even stuck this tube here into PAG, forgot what it is, PAG 27 I think on this one. Let's see. Oh, take it back. It's PAG 46. That's the weight of the oil that's used for this particular vehicle. And I just stuck this hose into it after I've been pulling a vacuum for 30-40 minutes, and then I've let it sit holding a vacuum for probably about an hour, and it's still holding perfect. And I've actually stuck this hose into a PAG oil bottle and then just open up the valve and let it suck up about two more ounces of oil in it. So far I've got about 4.5-5 ounces of oil in the whole system. Actually, you can probably see the oil right here in the gauge. So now I'm fixing to charge it, so I'm just gonna put my little adapter on here, and I've already screwed it on, and I haven't punctured it with this, and I'll connect it to the gauge and then charge it. Usually these systems take about 3 cans at the most. 134, back in the old days, R12, it seemed to take about 4 or 5 cans of it, whereas 134 only seems to take 2 or 3. But I'll video the gauges here so you can kind of see what the readings are supposed to be. Okay, it took about 3 cans of 134 Freon, and I don't know if I can really focus in on this or not, but the low side is about 30 psi and about 140 on the high, and that's just about right. I put a thermometer. Let me get one. I have one of these little thermometers here. I put it in the vent, and it got down to about 38 degrees, and the current temperature is probably about 52, 55, so couldn't get any color on that, but it seems to be blowing out ice cubes inside. So usually the rule of thumb is about 20-25 degrees below outside temperature. You can pick these up, but you can frankly use a meat thermometer for that matter, but you can pick these up in any auto parts store. They're not that expensive. And that completes putting an air conditioning compressor on a Chevrolet S10. Yeehaw!